The arena goes dark. 50,000 people hold their breath. And then, that music hits. You already know what I'm talking about. That slow, methodical, spine-tingling entrance that makes every single hair on your body stand at attention. Because when Paul Heyman walks through that curtain, something is about to change. Something is about to shift. The entire landscape of professional wrestling is about to be flipped upside down, and nobody is ready for what comes next. Welcome back to Wrestling Impact. I'm glad you're here tonight, because what we are about to break down for you is not just a storyline. This is not just a segment. What happened on Monday Night Raw was a seismic event. A thunderclap in the middle of a clear blue sky. And if you blinked, if you stepped away to grab a snack, if you looked at your phone for even 30 seconds, you missed history. So settle in, lock your door, turn off your notifications, and let us take you through every single moment of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar's return to Monday Night Raw, and the question that is now consuming every single wrestling fan on the planet: who is going to face the Beast incarnate at WrestleMania? Let's go back to the beginning of the night. Raw opens like it normally does. The lights are blazing, the crowd is electric, the commentary team is running down the card for the evening. Everything feels relatively routine. A few matches announced, a couple of promos teased, the usual Monday night energy. Fans in their seats are excited, but not over the moon. Nobody has tipped them off. Nobody has leaked anything major to the internet. The night feels like a solid episode of Raw, nothing more, nothing less. And then it happens. The show is maybe 40 minutes in. A promo is wrapping up in the ring. The crowd is reacting politely. And then silence. Dead silence. The kind that only happens when something unexpected is about to occur. The kind of silence that makes the people sitting at home lean forward in their chairs without even realizing they're doing it. And then the music hits. That music. And the crowd absolutely erupts. Paul Heyman walks out from behind that curtain in a tailored suit that probably costs more than your car, his microphone already in hand, that smug and supremely confident smile stretched across his face. He walks slowly, deliberately, soaking in every single decibel of that crowd reaction. The boos are thunderous, but underneath those boos, if you listen closely, and I mean really closely, you can hear something else. You can hear awe. You can hear respect. Because no matter how you feel about Paul Heyman, you cannot deny what he represents. You cannot ignore the gravitational pull he carries whenever he steps into a WWE arena. He gets to the center of that ring. He pauses. He looks around at all 50,000 faces staring back at him. He brings that microphone up to his lips, and he says something that immediately sends a shockwave through the building. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and I am the special counsel, the advisor, the confidant, and the most trusted individual of the reigning, defending, undisputed conqueror of WrestleMania streaks, the one, the only, Brock Lesnar. And the building loses its mind. Now here's the thing about Paul Heyman that separates him from every single other manager, every single other advocate, every single other mouthpiece in the history of this business. When Paul Heyman speaks, he doesn't just deliver words. He delivers experiences. He constructs sentences like an architect constructs buildings, with purpose, with precision, with an understanding of weight and structure that most people in this industry will never fully grasp. Every syllable is intentional. Every pause is choreographed. Every look he shoots at that crowd is calculated to produce a maximum emotional response. And on this night, Paul Heyman is firing on all cylinders. He begins to speak about absence. He talks about how sometimes the greatest predators in nature go quiet. He talks about how lions don't make noise before they hunt. He talks about how the most dangerous storms on earth give no warning. He is calm, he is measured, and with every passing sentence, the crowd is getting more and more unsettled, because they know that when Paul Heyman builds to something this carefully, the payoff is going to be extraordinary. He looks into the camera. He looks dead into that lens and he says, WrestleMania is coming. The grandest stage of them all is approaching. And there is one question being asked in every locker room, in every production meeting, in every executive office. There is one question being whispered by every superstar who thinks they deserve to stand across the ring from my client. He pauses for what feels like an eternity. And that question is whether or not they are worthy. And just as the crowd is processing those words, just as the commentators are scrambling to articulate what's happening, the next music hits. And when Brock Lesnar walks through that curtain, I need you to understand something. I need you to feel what that arena felt in that moment. Because there is something fundamentally different about Brock Lesnar's presence compared to every other performer in professional wrestling. When most superstars walk to that ring, you see a performer. You see someone executing their craft. But when Brock Lesnar walks to that ring, you see something that feels less like entertainment and more like a force of nature. He doesn't walk with swagger. He doesn't wave to the crowd or interact with the fans. He walks with inevitability. Like gravity. Like a freight train on tracks that cannot be redirected. He climbs into that ring. He stands next to Paul Heyman. He stares at that camera. No expression. No emotion. Just presence. Raw, overwhelming, terrifying presence. The crowd is split between cheers and boos and a third reaction that doesn't quite have a name, something closer to primal nervousness. The kind of feeling you get when you're standing at the edge of a cliff and you look down, even though you're perfectly safe. Just that involuntary tightening in your chest. And then Paul Heyman says the words that change everything. My client, Brock Lesnar, is here tonight for one reason and one reason only. He wants to know, he demands to know, which so-called superstar on this roster has the audacity, the ambition, and most importantly the ability to step into that ring with him at WrestleMania. And now the show has a story. Now the entire evening has a purpose. Because that challenge, that open challenge, that declaration from the Beast Incarnate creates a domino effect that sends the entire Raw roster into a state of controlled chaos. Backstage, the cameras catch reactions from superstars who are watching on monitors. Some of them look motivated. Some look nervous. Some look like they're doing the math in their heads, calculating risk versus reward, measuring ambition against self-preservation. Because this is the thing about Brock Lesnar. This is the thing that separates a WrestleMania match against Brock Lesnar from any other match at any other event. It's not just an opportunity. It's a test. It's a gauntlet. It's the single most physically demanding experience a human being can have inside a WWE ring. And the scars, both physical and psychological, are real. Now, throughout the course of the evening, names start to surface. Speculation begins to build. Fans in the arena are buzzing. Social media is exploding. And the commentary team is doing their job beautifully, feeding the fire, asking the right questions, throwing out possibilities and letting the audience chew on them. Who could it be? Who is worthy of this moment? Think about what a WrestleMania match against Brock Lesnar means. Think about the careers that have been defined by a collision with the Beast Incarnate. Think about what it means to stand across that ring on the grandest stage of them all and go to war with a man who is simultaneously the most legitimate physical specimen in the history of professional wrestling and one of the most decorated combat sports athletes the world has ever seen. This isn't just a WrestleMania match. This is a legacy-defining, career-altering, life-changing event. The right opponent doesn't just get a match. The right opponent gets a moment that people talk about for the rest of their lives. And as the night progresses, something incredible happens. The roster starts to respond. One by one, throughout the evening, superstars begin to stake their claim. Not all of them directly. Some through promos. Some through actions in their matches, performances that seem slightly sharper, slightly more intense, slightly more deliberate, as if they're auditioning in real time. There is an electricity running through that Raw broadcast that you can feel through the television screen, because the entire show has been reorganized around this one central question. Who fights Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? Now let's talk about the emotional complexity of this moment, because I think this is where a lot of coverage misses the boat. It's easy to focus on the spectacle. It's easy to get caught up in the hype and the excitement. But what makes this story genuinely compelling, what makes it worthy of the kind of attention it's getting, is the human element underneath it. Consider what it means for a superstar to answer the challenge. Consider what they would be saying about themselves. They would be standing up in front of millions of people worldwide and declaring that they believe they belong in that conversation. They are telling the world that they are not afraid. And in a business built on perception and confidence, that kind of self-declaration carries enormous weight, but it also carries enormous risk. Because if you answer the challenge and you fall short at WrestleMania, if you step up to Brock Lesnar and you get destroyed, that moment follows you. That loss echoes. It becomes part of your identity in a way that most losses never do. So the superstar who ultimately raises their hand, who ultimately steps forward and says, "Yes, I will be the one," they are not just making a business decision. They are making a statement about who they believe themselves to be. They are drawing a line in the sand and daring the universe to erase it. That's drama. That is genuine, authentic, cinematic drama. And that's why Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar returning to Raw is not just a wrestling story. It's a human story. As the night winds toward its conclusion, the tension in that arena is almost unbearable. The crowd can feel that something is coming. They can feel that the episode is building toward a climactic moment, a moment that will either provide an answer or deepen the mystery. Both outcomes are powerful. Both outcomes serve the story. And then, in the final segment of the evening, Paul Heyman returns to that ring. And he delivers one final speech, a masterclass in professional wrestling oratory that reminds every single person watching exactly why Paul Heyman is the greatest talker this business has ever seen. He says, "The Beast has declared his intention. The question is not whether Brock Lesnar will dominate WrestleMania. The only question that matters is who will have the privilege of being dominated." He lets that sit for a moment. And to whoever is backstage right now, thinking about answering the challenge, to whoever is sitting at home on their couch watching this right now, thinking they could be the one, Brock Lesnar has a message for you. He turns to Lesnar. Brock looks into the camera. And he says, slowly, with absolute conviction, 2 words. "Prove it." The music hits. The crowd erupts. The show ends. And the entire professional wrestling world is left with a feeling that can only be described as electric anticipation, the kind of feeling you only get when you're watching a story that genuinely doesn't know where it's going yet, and neither does anyone else, and that uncertainty is absolutely thrilling. Now, here at Wrestling Impact, we've been doing this long enough to know that moments like this, moments that feel this big in real time, don't come around often. The return of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar to Monday Night Raw is not just a storyline beat, it is a tectonic shift. It is the kind of moment that reshapes a WrestleMania card. It is the kind of moment that creates superstars, ends eras, and writes chapters in the ongoing story of this beautiful, ridiculous, spectacular world that we all love so deeply. And the best part? We don't know what comes next. The path from here to WrestleMania is unwritten. The opponent hasn't been named. The story hasn't been told. And every single Monday night between now and that grand event is going to be colored by this declaration, by this open challenge, by the specter of Brock Lesnar standing in the middle of that ring waiting to see who is brave enough, crazy enough, talented enough to answer the call. I genuinely cannot wait. And neither can you. I know you can't. Because if you've watched this video all the way to this point, you are exactly the kind of wrestling fan who lives for moments like this. You are the kind of fan who understands that professional wrestling at its absolute best is not just entertainment. It is storytelling. It is mythology. It is larger-than-life characters and larger-than-life situations making you feel things that you didn't expect to feel when you sat down to watch a television show. That's what tonight was. That's what Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar delivered on Monday Night Raw. And that's what we're here to celebrate and analyze every single day here at Wrestling Impact. So here's what I want from you. Down in the comments section, right now, I want your answer. I want to know who you think should be the one to step up. Who deserves to stand across that ring from Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania? Who has the story, who has the credibility, who has the ability to make that match feel as massive as it deserves to feel? Drop your pick in the comments. Let's have this conversation. Let's build this together as a community, because that's what this channel is all about. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Join the Wrestling Impact family. We are here every single week breaking down the biggest moments, the boldest storylines, and the most captivating characters in professional wrestling. We do this because we love it. We do this because you love it. And together, we make this community something worth being a part of. The Beast has returned. The challenge has been issued. WrestleMania is on the horizon. And the story is just getting started.